Good morning, everyone. It's Jeannie from A1, and I'm getting ready to stitch out my last block. That's block number 7 over here for the nativity pillow. And then I'll be able to do my sashing pieces and my border pieces. But this is going to be the little palm tree, and there is a little lamb as well. So here's my fabric. I'm just going to put that aside, and let's go ahead and re-hoop. Let me put this up a little bit so you can see. I've been using my magnetic. Let me move this out of the way too. I've been kind of double fisting it, working on a bunch of different projects at once. I'm just constantly doing that. Unfortunately, nothing ever seems to get finished. That's the issue. So let me pop these off. And I'm using muslin. You'll notice that I'm not using, I think they recommend light mesh cutaway. And instead of using that, I almost always use muslin when there's quilting involved and there's batting and there's background fabric and everything's been stabilized. I like the feel of it. I like the weight of it. It's just my... I don't want to call it stabilizer because the muslin is not a stabilizer and there's nothing about it that stabilizes. It's a base. It's the base on which I embroider. Let's call it that. So, and at this point, stabilizer can be really expensive. I think it's more cost effective too. I haven't really compared it, but like for instance, we sell a yard of 90-inch muslin at our store, and it's $10.99. So this right here is, I don't know. Oh, actually, I can tell you right now. It's about half a yard. So it's about half a yard, and I've been able to do this whole thing, so it's kind of nice. I'm going to pull this taut over here. Pull it taut, but not tight. And I seem to be missing one. There it is. And we're ready to stitch. I could cut this one off, but I'll just go ahead and leave it. I'm going to go slide this on my machine, and we'll be ready. And let's come on over here. Let's load our design in. I'm going to grab my handy dandy spreadsheet. People always ask where they can find the spreadsheet, and you can find this on our Facebook page. So if you go to the A1 Sew Along group, you'll find these under files, and you'll be able to find them all. So we're going to go embroidery. I have this loaded. I leave this loaded in my lower USB. So I just always plug in and out of this. So I'm going to go lower USB, nativity quilting, and we're doing stars 4, and the size is 4x8. And that's all here on my spreadsheet. Quilt design, stars 4, 4x8, what size to pre-cut your batting. Stabilizer you can use, the page that you can find it on, if it's going to be centered or if it's going to be laid out some special way, the size hoops that you can use. Oh, and look, I could be using my 6x10 for this, but I'm just going to finish up with this strip of muslin, and then that's what it's going to be cut down to. So we're doing 4x8. These are the skinny ones. Set. We're going to add our other design. I'm going to go back to my lower port, and I named my file Nativity PES. Those are my embroidery files. And these all went in order. This is the last one. Set, and they're centered just the way they are. You don't have to move anything. I'm going to touch embroidery, and now we're ready to embroider. I like it so it shows this picture, my layout with the colors that are coming up, and I also like to go right here, and that's where I can go forward and backward stitches, and then it shows me my color there too. So either way, I usually stay in this like in here because I usually skip some steps. Okay, we are going to do the first stitch out, which is placement for the batting. I'm going to grab my spray tent, my background fabric, if you want to watch me spray away, this is, oh my goodness, if you could see, should I show you? Look at that. That's my dirty secret. You're seeing everything. Those are cuties that I'm working on. So I'm just going to give that a little shot of spray. And remember, you want to spray the wrong side, and this a shot of spray. And this is my dime spray tent, and I love it. And I like it because, well, I have a spray box too that I spray my longer pieces in. But I really, really like, oh, you know what I should have done that I'm going to do? I want to move this over because look, I'm wasting all of that. There's going to be all this waste. So this is what I'm going to do. I am going to go back to step 0. You can't do anything unless you're at stitch 0. And then I'm going to go layout, move, and I'm going to scoot this all the way over. And that way I utilize all of my muslin. And I'm going to say okay to that. But if you had been at the end of that step, it doesn't let you do, here, I'm going to show you. I'm going to go 1 stitch in. And then I'm going to, look, grayed out. So you can't do anything unless you're at stitch 0. So if you accidentally stitch a stitch, I'm going to go back to stitch 0. And now look, now I can move everything, but I'm already moved over, so it's fine. I'm just going to go ahead and stitch that out one more time, and then I'll lay my stuff down. There we go. That saved me a whole 1.5 inches, and you never know when you're going to need that 1.5 inches. I'm going to lay down my batting first. And then I'm going to take my background fabric and center it to my batting. About 1 inch above, 1 inch to the left, 1 inch all the way around. Doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to be just trimming all of that outer fabric away. And we are going to skip some steps. So that's my tack down. That's the placement stitch for my background fabric. That's the tack down for my background fabric, which we are going to do. And just go ahead and hit start. And I like to kind of press down on it just a little bit, just to make sure there's no bubbles or puckers, that everything looks gorgeous. And then onto our stitching, 20 minutes of stitching. You know, it never really takes 20 minutes because you're doing applique and all sorts of other stuff. Okay, if you look at your screen, you should see your quilting stitch out. I'm seeing that, so I know I'm in the right spot. If you're not, you're going to have to fast forward or rewind or do something to find it. And this is going to be 4 minutes of stitching. after we do the quilting, we're gonna stitch out the little lammy's legs, and I am using Sandcastle. That was the color in the kit, in the thread kit. And then we're gonna be placing the foam. Don't forget, if you're doing animals, you're gonna be placing foam to make them just a little bit poofy. We're about 2/3 of the way through. Go ahead and change your thread out. I use this blue a lot. Marlin. So pretty. Okay, and go ahead and hit start and just whoop. Oh, for a minute I thought I was unthreaded. And I'm gonna grab my flex foam. And again, I don't pre-cut my pieces. I just lay this down, and I feel like you don't waste as much if you do that. So I just kind of lay it down as I go. Maybe we'll go right here. We'll use that little spot. Here he is, and up. And I just hold it down, and then I'll trim it away. I'm going to use my snips to trim this. They're my Snip Ease Havel snips. And I always share with you the products that I'm using that make my life easier. Because I didn't know what scissors, or I didn't know what to get when I first got started. I literally used, my first embroidery machine was a Baby Lock. And so it was a Sophia. It was a Baby Lock Sophia. And it came with a pair of embroidery scissors, nothing fancy. They weren't double curved. They were just regular embroidery scissors with a blue handle, like a turquoisey blue handle. And like, that's what I used. That's what I used for the longest time. And then I got a Baby Lock Allure, and same thing. It came with another pair of blue-handed scissors, and that's what I used. And I didn't know that there were, double curved or curved straight or anything. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to lay this down next. So I'm going to give this a little shot of spray. Little itty bitty shot of spray. And it wants to do a placement stitch first. I'm going to skip that because you know exactly where that piece of fabric's going to go. That's in turquoise. That's placement. That's tack down. So I'm going to do the tack down. You know, if you can skip steps, why not? Why not be faster and more efficient? If you find it confusing, don't do it. Just do whatever makes your brain happy. This is the tack down. Whoop! That's not very focused, is it? And then we're going to go ahead and trim. Get it nice and close. Just slide this back a little bit. And let's slide it back on and do the decorative stitch. It in your instructions, it's going to tell you to use the fray preventative products. I haven't been doing that at all. I'm just doing the stitch, and then I'm doing the decorative stitch over it. And then we're going to do the palm tree. For the palm tree, I'm using Spice Brown. All right, we need to do the placement stitch for the palm tree. And remember, I cut my pieces on the Scan and Cut this time. So I am going to be laying it down. Make sure you, if you did it with me, that you heat up your iron. I love it. I mean, there's either work in the front end or work in the back end. So for me, my work right now was in the front end, setting up the Scan and Cut and doing all the cuts. And now I can just lay it down, press it, and stitch it. There's no tack down, there's no trimming. Okay. While I'm working on this, I'm also working on my cuties. So I was just kind of trimming out some of my border pieces. Let's put this over here. Every area of my sewing room is free game. Meaning I have fabric on the floor that I was kind of like lining up and yeah, every surface. Okay, so I'm going to lay this down first. Make sure that this kind of fits. I'll move that up, pop that up just the tiniest bit. That looks good. I'm going to press my tree down first, or the top of the tree. And then I'll let this follow. There we go. It's pretty generous. I feel like the SVG files cut stuff pretty generously so that you're not going to have any issues. You're going to lay it down. So even if you don't lay it down perfectly, that satin stitch is going to cover it all up. So go ahead and slide this back on. So we're going to skip some steps because this next step here, we did a placement. That's my tack down for my tree. So if you're doing this traditionally, you're going to go ahead and lay it down, do the tack down, and then you're going to trim your tree. I don't need to do that. I'm just going to skip right to the satin stitch decorative outline. All right, looks like we're gonna have a little mylar star. So I'm gonna go ahead and take out my brown and let's put in sand, which is like such a perfect gold colored thread. It's gorgeous. So if you don't have sand in your collection, you should get it. It's chilly here today. It's like one of the first days it actually feels like fall. And then you want to grab your mylar. Today's a day I'm feeling thankful for everything in my life. And there's only one star, so just let it stitch out completely. And I think I'm going to try and work on November's cutie because I'm behind. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull that up, get that little piece too. And if you left it, it'd be fine. You could grab it with your tweezers later, which I might just do. Now it's going to do the star stitching. So this is the large star satin outline. Then we're going to do this small star fill, and then we're going to stitch the eyelets. And we are going to be done with our stitching and onward. And I think next thing, if you want to, we could go ahead and we could press and trim all of these pieces and sew them together, or else I think what I'm going to do is I am going to do the quilting of my sashing pieces. Okay, go ahead and hit start. It's going to do 5 little small stars. All right, let's go ahead and put in the blue We're going to do our eyelets. We've got 2 eyelets, and then we're done. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to pre-quilt the sashing pieces and then sew it all together, or if I'm going to sew everything together and then do clear blue tiles. And clear blue tiles, the difference between quilting it block by block is you're going to do the placement, lay your batting down, then put your pieces down. If you're doing clear blue tiles, you would just be taking your whole thing, sewing it all together, sandwiching it, and then adding the designs. So I'm just kind of trying to figure it out. And we are done. That is block number 7. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to press and trim these. So I'll see you back in just a little bit.